There we go. Hello. Do 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 do. Hi there. Just sitting here painting a dead guy. Sorry guys, I'm just fishing out paints from different big boxes. And when I say big boxes, I do mean it. Always the last place you look. What am I painting? I'm painting my first ever World Eater. This happy little chappy. I've also not got my fan in here this evening. I decided to go live without thinking about it, so it's hot. Use this one. Need to get some new brushes in soon. These are all starting to get a bit too worn out. But I'm off to Colours on the 9th, I think. And ABC Brushes usually have a store there, and they're the guys who I normally buy all my brushes from, so I will just pick some up from them on the day. How do I keep... So Sion, how's your day been? Had a good weekend so far? Yeah, I've got a rather large gaming computer next to me and no airflow. So it is just swelter city in here at the moment. I need to figure out... Heresy World Eaters. Because I can't remember if the helmets are blue as well. No, they're not. Fantastic. Quiet weekend so far. I've not really done much, Sign. A little bit of shopping, and that's really been about it. Anyone else hold their breath when they're painting? Ooh. Nothing else says it's a good use of my time like painting freehand on something you're probably never going to look at. Mess that up a bit. But it's okay. Happy little accidents and all. So I have decided I want to do some World Eaters, and I want to do a World Eaters Librarian which I know sounds absolutely mad. But I like the idea of a sort of really early heresy style force, which is just throwing everything against the wall and seeing what sticks. So it would be like a Tartarus librarian wielding. It'll be a force maul in the rules, but it would basically be just a bigger meteorite hammer, which is just a ball and chain effectively. But it's a warp powered ball and chain. And this is Cantor blue, if you're wondering, which is a really nice dark but rich shade of blue. I use this for my Proto Nova Marines. Don't have to be too neat at this point. Don't have to be too neat in general. This guy's going to be covered in blood. So the Mark III Marines disappeared, I see. So obviously we're going to be seeing those guys at Nova, which is going to be interesting. And I did see that Valrak was out defending his honour about the big box release, despite the new rumours saying that there wouldn't be a new big box. So that's going to be interesting. Yes, it is the Bando and the Alfarius. Because I need to start a 12th, I want to say 13th army. Yeah, that would work. Jump packs did come in for my Emperor's Children, so the Praetor for my Emperor's Children now has got his wings. I need to sort out a base for him, and I will paint him when the when the tale of my printed Mark II Marines ever finally ends. It has been 40 days? I think it's getting close to 40 days since I ordered them and they still haven't arrived. Also, your stuff is prepped for... Oh, fantastic. All right, it's you. Hi, Sam. Yes, that wonderful gentleman there is providing me with some epic Marines and tanks and other goodies that I may paint on stream for you people to enjoy. Much to many, many people's chagrin, when I put it up for a vote, the Iron Warriors won. So, whoops. Strong angry man points at ground vibe. Yes, it's you come here and die next. That's what it is. Oh, I should also give you an update on the Sicarian. I added some camo netting to it. I've also glued this gun in place, just because of the way the camo netting sits. Unfortunately, it's going to need super gluing down, which is a pain in the backside, but I'll get around to it. I did try using some bandage, but the bandage bits were... It's just slightly too big holes. It's the wrong shape gauze, so it's not going to work. So I just went for that, and I'll do it in the same kind of oak leaf autumn pattern that I have on my Raven Guard. Any of the guys wearing cloaks have got this sort of P-dotty kind of German style camouflage. Yeah, day 40 of waiting for 10 3D printed bodies and heads and legs, which has already been paid for, by the way, which is my own fault, you know. I could have probably asked for a refund by now, But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I actually want the models. I don't want to go through the hassle of ordering them from somewhere else again. This is Calidor Sky. Ironically, Calidor High Elves were always red, which is really interesting, so I don't know why they went for blue. And I know it's Calidor Sky. Yeah. I decided to use a different type of sand on this base, and it was so super fine it got everywhere. Like, every bit of this model has it in places it shouldn't be. But I suppose that's the nature of warfare, isn't it? Dirty, gets everywhere, irritating, etc. Yeah, gauze is really good for camo netting. It's really an interesting material to use. The problem is that obviously you've got to make sure you've either painted the layers beneath it, the material beneath it, or you've got to get enough of it so it doesn't matter that you've covered it. Wow, I really didn't get any of this covered with the dark blue, did I? Weathering, yes. Yeah, so this guy will be chipped, and then we'll have an oil wash over him, like the rest of my salamanders they always get. Ooh, come on. Do you want to focus? Focus! They get an oil wash to really blend everything together. Okay, apparently I've just forgotten how to hold a paintbrush. That's handy. Had an interesting update on one of my videos. One of the comments accused me of crying, which I thought was quite funny. I must admit one of the last videos I did was rather miserable, but that's because I'm just bored of Games Workshop and all their shenanigans. Or lack of shenanigans, that's the worst part. Let's tidy that up a bit. Yeah, I'm hoping Nova's got some good releases. I'm not holding my breath or anything, he says when actually holding his breath. But yeah, I just getting burnt out with Games Workshop in general. And I could cover other things, you know, I could get, you know, Kenny or whoever excited over Battletech by covering that, but no one else wants to, you know, watch videos on Battletech or Bolt Action. That's the real sad thing about like making videos on YouTube is if you don't do Games Workshop stuff, it gets no traction. Like zero traction. Just a little bit of freehand there, Angelo, don't worry. It's not like I'm painting the Sistine Chapel, just some chains. It's 4 lines. It's a circle with 2 lines through it. Yeah, Nova's gonna be an interesting one. I'm expecting good things for like the fantasy side of the hobby, but not much else. I need a silver. Where the hell is my silver? That's gold. Or if you actually get gold, because that's what they were. It's Vallejo's Metal Gold, or Metal Colour Series Gold. Don't think I've used this one yet. I've got Exhaust Manifold that I really like. Been using that on my iron hands. They airbrush wonderfully, but they're not so great from a brush. Accepting the new Horus Heresy box set with the new Mark III, and that's all I'm hoping for. If that gets announced, I'll be very happy. I don't know how I'd feel if it replaces the Age of Darkness box set, because the rumoured contents of that box set does not equal the value of the AOD box set. So if they pop it out for the same price, then it's just not going to be worth it, in my opinion. It also means I will probably end up buying another AOD box just before they go out of stock. Because it's what, 140 quid? So basically for the price of the Spartan and the Terminators, and half the box of the tacticals, yeah, you're getting all of that. So I can always find someone to palm the rulebook off on. I've already given one of them away. Yeah, it is a bit weird. Honestly, Games Workshop knocked it out of the park with Retributor armor. It's hands down one of the best gold paints I've ever worked with. It's also apparently one of the most expensive gold paints they've ever produced, or most expensive paints, which is understandable, but it definitely shows. But it's nice. I mean, it's a good sort of desaturated, slightly greeny, more brass than gold, goldy metallic. It works well. It's cold in tone, so it works well for the word bearers. Not word bearers, sorry, world eaters. Yeah, not bad. So at the moment, Mark III Plastic Duro, yeah, Land Rover, what her replace the AD and AD with Leviathan for 30k. Not going to do that for the same scale now. No, they probably won't. Which is, you know, it is what it is. If I could do things my way, I would do, and if you've got to keep the sort of 3-year cycle going, doing your main box at release, and then doing a box halfway through that, like an update box, is how I would do it. You know, print a second version of it, and then, or the second version of the rulebook, you know, with the updated FAQs and everything in there. But there's a reason I don't run a multi-million or billion-pound model company. What we're doing? Wake me up when they do Mark II or Mark IV. Well, Mark IV will be coming. Mark IV will be this time next year, probably. I expect we get another, what they call another roadmap, and it will be very, very similar for next year, because next year we may even see the next version of Heresy, which will be hugely well received, obviously. But I reckon Mark IV would be, or Mark II probably will be, may feature heavily for that, but more likely Mark IV. Mark IV will be the V2 starter set, and they'll be the exact, because these Mark IIIs, they look like they're in the exact same poses as the Mark VI Marines. So I expect something very similar for the Mark IV, so that they can use all the same special and heavy weapon sprees, and that literally will be about it. Yeah, AOD is expensive in some countries. Honestly, the exchange rate between GW and foreign countries is criminal. It makes no sense. It doesn't make sense from any of the excuses they give about shipping or anything like that. At minimum, GW needs to knock 20% off of all of their prices when sending them to other countries. But they don't. They include the British tax on there for everyone, just as added profits. And that's not right. You want it out there. You want people in other countries buying it. You want other people in other countries talking about it, because Warhammer it's an English institution. It really is. People, like even our comedians, take the piss out of Warhammer. The general public know about it because they know that it's something that nerds do, and they'll joke about it. And you want that. You want it to be well known by everyone. You want Warhammer as a brand to be out there like Star Wars. Someone sees a Space Marine and has the same cultural significance as like a Stormtrooper or Darth Vader, Captain Kirk, that sort of thing. Is there a channel Discord? Not really. I generally hang around the Outer Circles Discord. That's generally where I am. If you need to ping me on a public Discord that you can just get into, I'm on the Crusade and Heresy one as well. The Outer Circles one generally isn't public. We put out like invites every now and then, but they're quite heavily restricted and time locked. So I've put out a couple in the last couple of days, but they've obviously expired. I don't want to keep pestering the mods because it's not my Discord server. I also don't want to start one myself yet because it's not really where I am. I'm not big enough yet. Evening, how are you doing? Hi, Havoc. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Toothache seems to have subsided for the moment. It's still there. I can still just feel it. But it's just hot today. Everything is hot, damp. And my housemate is driving me up the wall. He's got his computer so loud I can hear it from one room over, and I'm wearing headphones. And I'm deaf. I am like really hard of hearing. So that's not good. We will never see Mark V. I don't know about that. I think we will see Mark V, but I'll be honest, I think it will be the second to last armor mark we do see released. Simply because I think it's going to be just too hard for them to do. I just don't. Unless you want your entire model to be split in half like clamshell way. Ah, the squirrel is here. He's just a squirrel trying to get a nut. But yeah, I don't think we'll get Mark V for a while, but it will happen. It's just I don't think they can do it in plastic easily. Honestly, trying to think about, because you can't have overhangs, so something like this is very difficult to do in plastic in a mold because it's got the overhang. Luckily, this is only, like, if we were to mold this, it would be kind of easy because it's only on one side. But if it was on all sides, so for the studs, for example, if we grab this guy, even though he's not. So the studs on this guy's shoulder pad, you can do this because, well, for a start, I think this is actually a resin shoulder pad. That helps. Actually, it might even be 3D printed. And that one's definitely resin. So yeah, you can't have the underhangs basically of the studs. So that's why the pad is in half on the Mark 6 kit. They get around this on the Mark 3 legs, for example, by having one leg separate so they can turn it to a different angle in the mold. If you were to do Mark 5 armour, you would most likely see something like the Primaris Marines, where the leg is empty, and then the shin guard is off like the Primaris one and split in half. So each leg, or set like body and legs, would be the body and legs, and then 4 separate parts for the shins. That's the only way I can see GW doing it. And fuck that shit. That's just not happening. Although they will sit there and be like, hey, we've got this like 196 part kit for you guys, and it's just all shins. It's all shins. But I do think we'll get them eventually. I just don't know how they're going to do them without them looking awful. Or radically changing the design, which is another option. Especially if you look at the back of Fafnir Rand's legs. You can see the change to the Mark II armour. You know, when we get Mark II, it's going to look more like this than like this. It won't have that overhang. It's just going to be banded. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Oh, that was close. Hi Rutger, how are you doing? Yeah, Games Workshop's production is their biggest hurdle, really, because they're just making too much nowadays, and it's the problem where they're desperately sat on FOMO and you've got to have got to have the new, got to have the shiny. Dark brown. This will do. Yeah, you got to have the new shiny because people want the new shiny. Well, that's a problem because new shiny, you can't keep that production level up. I may have to re-record all the audio for the review of these paints. I've looked in my folder for saved saved recordings of audio and video, and it's just a mess, and it will take days and days, literally, to decode which bit goes with which video. So I might just stitch the video together and then just record the audio on the fly, so it won't match. But all of these guys are now fully blocked in with everything except the metallics. So metallics will be next on them. But I firmly believe we're going to see those kits. We will see them, even if it means some of them might be redone in resin, even. I mean, that's always a possibility. Yeah, I mean that is part of the problem, isn't it? They've killed the goodwill they had with the community, and that's very difficult to get back. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies in the world that only have customers because there's no competition to them. Microsoft, for example, only dominates the market because no one's willing to step up and actually remove their monopoly. But if they did, suddenly Microsoft would find themselves in a lot of trouble. Yeah, printing's just going to keep getting better. Honestly, the moment that some company comes out with a non-garbage, water-washable, non-toxic resin that can be poured down the sink, for example, that's like absolutely non-toxic, not destructive to the environment, so it doesn't require any sort of hazardous material stuff, that's going to be as close to plug and play as you get with a printer, in my opinion. And with the amount of pre-supported files out there nowadays, that's big. Yeah, that'll be big as long as they've got the smarts behind it. Yeah. They have been saying that they don't want to produce resin and non-plastic models for decades. They were talking about it when I worked for the company, and that's at least 15 years ago. Ironically, every single time they've got rid of a material or they've changed materials or anything like that, it's always been, oh, so we can pass the savings onto the customer. And then, that model that was £4 is now £11. And now it's £25. Space Wolf Room Priest, when I got one in metal, was literally £4. It was the cheapest model Games Workshop did. And then they switched it over to resin, and they did a resin one for a while, and that was even more expensive and worse quality, and then they switched over to, I think they've got a plastic one now, haven't they? Or it might just be the Librarian. But that's more expensive. The possibility of Heresy being on the 3-year edition release without Black Shields, Knight Errants or Demon release would not go down well. You're right, it probably wouldn't. There would be a very vocal group of the community who would be very angry about that. Unfortunately, that group in the community is vocal about a lot of things, and Games Workshop's really good at filtering out them, filtering out the white noise. Because we've been vocal and angry about a lot of things. So they've tuned us out, basically. Honestly, they could do a lot of it by doing a book. I don't know what you'd call it. The Secret War or something like that. And it would be Demons of the Ruined Storm in there as an army list. Agents of Malkador or Agents of the Sigillite, and do that. And then, all sorts of sort of little bits that don't quite fit into other armies and are designed to be like allied into other armies. And just do it that way. They don't need to have, demons, for example, don't need a list that can be put out as a whole 3,000 point on its own army. You can have demons have a proper release as a supporting army. Of course, you can if you want to go to a full army, but at the end of the day, they don't have the production capacity. Shattered Legions never get talked about. You're right, they don't. Again, Shattered Legions could get their own campaign book, which would be really simple to do. You know, you do a campaign book that's like, I don't know, Echoes of Istvan, or some other silly name that they'd give it. And that is focusing on, you know, the directly after Istvan, what happened to the forces. And then you could have all special characters in there, like Shadric Medicine and, you know, those guys. Special characters for each of the armies. Rules for taking armies built of different bits, you know. Just treat it like the, what's it called? The thingy of treachery, Spoils of Treachery, or whatever the Alpha Legion special rule is. Where you pick the primary faction that your army is going to be. So say I say salamanders. Okay, my army has to be at least 60% salamanders. It has to have a salamanders HQ. And, you know, it can access X number of points, percentage points worth of salamander special units. And then any of the other factions in there can be up to the other 40%. That's what I would do. Black Shields I'd throw into like another codex with demons, that sort of thing. A bit random, what part of a marine do you find the most annoying to paint? For me it's the bolt guns. I don't really know why, but probably because I paint them last and always get black on my armour. Well, I always get black on my armour, so don't worry, you're not on your own there. I do find bolt guns a pain in the backside to paint, because it's generally figuring out how much weathering to do on them, whether to weather them or not. You don't want them all looking the same, but you kind of do. For me, I would probably say the hardest part of painting a marine, I'm going to say the backpack. I know that sounds really weird, you know, probably. But a lot of the time, there's a lot of little bits in the backpack that I struggle with, because either I'm, you know, rubbing the paint off them by accident, or I can't get the paint into where I want. There's lots of piping on a lot of them. Also, on like the Mark III packs, for example, you've got the annoying seam in the middle. And there's always like a connector point at the top as well. So for me, yeah, getting the backpacks generally a lot of the time is a real pain in the backside to me. Other than that, yeah, the bolt guns are usually annoying. The bits that are in here, for example, anywhere that's inside the shoulder pad. I don't like painting models when they are not assembled. What do you think of that? Does that look okay so far? I quite like that so far. Yeah, have it. You're right. People do keep buying it, and that's the problem. We, as a society, have a lot of people who've got a lot of disposable income. And it's a problem we see in wargaming, in video games, in every hobby, basically. And these people have way too much disposable income. You know, they work in like the tech field or something, and they make £175,000 a year. So they go, oh, I'll buy this, you know, oh, I'm going to buy the special edition of this video game that's £125, because that's nothing to me. And the company sees that they've sold 10, 15 copies of this, and they go, well, for 10 or 15 copies of that, I'd need to sell 60, 70 copies of the regular game. So if I keep catering to that market, I don't have to sell as many. And it really starts to grind down the smaller part of the market. Yeah, it was, you could buy packs of like 3 models in blister packs, all the way up until about, I think they got rid of blister packs like that It's going to be about 6th or 7th edition. Which incidentally was probably the worst time for sculpting. They had some absolutely atrocious sculpting around that era. But yeah, they slowly started moving. It was Finecast basically when they moved, just around when they moved to Finecast, and then they just stopped doing blister packs in stores. It was one of the reasons it happened was because the sheer amount of returns on Finecast models, and people were opening Finecast models in the store and going, oh, I've got an imperfection here, and the guys were like, cool, go grab another one off the shelf and we'll replace it, because that was the company policy. And then they were opening that one in the store, finding more problems. They were like, okay, go grab another one, and they were opening the entire stock for a single model, and every single one was miscast, and they were getting refunds. That was it. Just go away, please leave. So they just stopped keeping them in store to stop things like that happening, because it was a really bad look. Try painting cool. Yeah, cool I would just do with an airbrush. I would probably start with gold, or I'd start with tin bits, or whatever the hell tin bits is called nowadays, warp block bronze, and then I'd go up to silver. I'd do lots of washes, and then I would just focus on the red. I wouldn't bother picking out much of the detail on him, if I'm going to be honest. Maybe I'll get round to it at some point. He could make a really interesting conversion. I did start doing a Dark Mechanicus army a while ago, which were these guys, using Delac bodies and Skitari weapons and helmets. So he could make a really interesting character for them. It's all collapsing, Captain. Other than that, yeah, I doubt I'll ever paint cool. Not really something I'd ever want to do. Yeah, about 2014, that's about the same time. Imperfection, that's not... Yeah, Finecast was awful. That being said, I've actually got a model here that is made of Silocast. So Silocast, if you've not heard of this, is this new material that's being touted in the community. It's a type of resin, and it's being used by people like Warlord Games, and it behaves somewhere between resin and plastic, but it's really quick to set up, and you can set up a model to be cast in Silocast resin pretty much the same speed, if not faster, than you can with traditional resin. And there's no need to change the model. So any model that was cast in metal, so for example this guy, which you've seen before, you could take this model, throw it into the Silocast machine, which then squashes down and creates the mold, put the pegs in to get it in there, close it up, run the machine, and 20 minutes later you've got a model. It's nuts. Which is really good. And they're working with a lot of smaller companies. Also found this guy the other day. Little goblin I decided to paint using nothing but pointillism. So he's actually painted with nothing but loads of little dots. I found him in a box. I don't think I ever bought this model. I think I got him given for free by a friend. But these old Games Workshop fantasy sculpts had so much character. Look at him. He's great. He's great. Look at him. He's so happy. He's loving his job. This guy, not so much. So yeah, so Silocast, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting material for smaller creators. You know, smaller, more like garage style manufacturers. Internet culture like pile of shame pictures also contribute to the excess buying in the hobby, because you don't feel ashamed of the amount of money you spent when you see other people also do this. Yes, you are 100% correct, and I've already done a video on that and got called out for it and got called all sorts of silly names and got told I was jealous because I don't like it. oh, we've all got piles of shame, but the hint's in the name. It's the pile of shame. Stop buying new models. Yeah, it's just a bit mad that buying models becomes the hobby. Not building, painting and playing with them. Buying them becomes the hobby. So yeah, that's always part of the problem, isn't it? Anyway, let's get on with this. Ugh. Chunky Games Workshop paints are chunky. Controlling your spending is important. Self-control is one of the most important skills a man can learn. It's also one of the most. It is one of the most important skills. Sorry, because it's important in every single part of your life. If you can teach yourself to say no to buying new models, you can teach yourself to say no to that extra slice of cake. You can teach yourself to say no to an extra drink when you shouldn't have one. You can teach yourself to say no, to when you pick up on the hints from a girl that she's not interested. All sorts. If you can teach yourself to actually have that willpower, you can do anything as a man. Because once you can teach yourself to say no, it's very easily to teach yourself to say yes to the hard stuff. Yes, I can go to the gym tonight. Yes, I'm going to do an extra hour of work on my project at home. Self-control is a skill that's just not taught to anyone. Willpower is something that's just painfully missing from our culture. Yeah, I didn't expect to get that sort of shit when you logged into this stream, did you? Hey, Rutger, that is a fantastic thing to do. Once you've realised that you're probably never going to do it, sell it on and use the funds to work on a project you are going to do. That way, someone else gets to enjoy the hobby without giving Games Workshop any money. Honestly, it's something I say all the time. We actually don't need them anymore for this hobby. They don't realise it yet, but they will. Everything is messy. There is way too much paint on this brush. Look at this stuff. Yeah, Black Templar models are nice. If I could buy the old Black Templar upgrade set, I'd pick up another 2, just without even thinking about it. They've been really useful for my Siege of Terror Imperial Fists, and they'll be really useful for my Siege of Terror Second Imperial Fist army, because I actually want to do what is basically a Proto-Imperial Fist army. Oh yeah, selling off books, CDs and all that. The only thing with that is that CDs are DVDs and all that, they're really, they're going to become more important in the next couple of years, because a lot of people have realised that the streaming companies, they change films. They cut things that aren't, acceptable to nowadays standards from the films. And people then go back and watch them and go, well, this isn't the right film, this is different now. So I know a lot of people who've started buying up CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays and even VHSs. A recaster I know has the Indominus shoulders. Yes, many of the recasters I know have an awful lot of kits. All of the old Forge World Indomni Terminator pads are on most of them now, which is pretty cool. They don't fit the new Terminators apparently, so keep that in mind if you're going to order some. My regular has just got the Leviathan Terminators, so I will be ordering a set of those, and I will be using them to represent Morlocks, because they're massive compared to the other Terminators, and I want them to look massive. But they will be converted into cataphracti effectively. Three Sisters of Silence, 2 Necron Warriors, 13... I'm not even going to try and pronounce that word. Thralls. That's my pile, and I have no motivation to paint any of that. I'm assuming that's 3 boxes of Sisters of Silence, Seth. Yeah, it can be tough to find the motivation. It's one of the reasons I never did... what do you call it? Commission painting, really, because I don't have the drive to paint my own stuff. Oh, just 3 models? Then that's just disgusting. Get on with it, you lazy little squirrel. No, I don't like doing things like commission painting because I don't have the motivation to paint my own stuff, so I'm not going to have the motivation to paint someone else's stuff. And you've got to if you've taken money for it, so that's why I never really want to do it. I mean, I've done it recently. My mother, of all people, she commissioned me to convert and paint up a bolt-action tank to look like Fury from the movie Fury. And I said I don't want to do it. I don't do commission painting. No, thank you. And she just kind of forced my hand. So I did, and it took months to do because I couldn't find the motivation to actually do it. I think everyone here prints Abyss. You are definitely among the pro printing crowd here, don't worry. Yeah, I got a printer 3 years ago now. I got it the first week of lockdown here in the UK. Because it was on sale, it cost the same amount of money as my monthly train ticket to my job at the time, which obviously I didn't need to pay for because I wasn't going into the office. So I bought myself a 3D printer. And I've used it a bit. I've not used it enough. Maybe if I talk about 3D printed stuff enough, one of those companies will end up sending me one. That's the plan. I've got no plans to ever go back into... I did commission painting briefly when I was at school, because there was a lot of kids who didn't want to paint their models, and I loved painting, so for a couple of quid I would paint the models. The downside to it was that I always wanted to keep the models because I'd fall in love with the paint job that I've done, which is not great. And one of my proudest moments was my third form English teacher, Mr. Browning, telling me that I painted better than he did. Which was great. I probably should get some music or something for these streams, because otherwise I'm just going to keep trying to hum and whistle copyrightable music that's going to get me struck down. I only print models I make myself. If I was to print other models, yeah, Yeah, I know that feeling. Luckily, I suck with my printer, so I get failures more than I get successes, so I don't end up with a huge pile of printed models. If I have a full build plate, I get maybe 40% of it actually comes out properly, which is why I've not touched it for over a year now. I kind of gave up with it. How's that looking? Ooh, chippity chipped. Decided to go for like a metallic fire instead of the traditional one, so I used a dark bronze into sort of gold and silver, but it's not come out very well. This is the older, more traditional style fire. I really want to finish these guys, but I can't. I've tried several times to blend these tabards in, and I can't quite get them to look right, and it's annoying me. But like that, his sword comes out and just it looks fantastic when he's together. I mean, Dr. Nay, the footprint for a 3D printer is not huge. The smaller Mars series, like the Mars 4, you're looking at about 1 foot squared, plus maybe 2-3 feet up. So it can go into a cupboard somewhere, and then as long as you've got sort of a couple of pickle jars, those like plastic Tupperware pots with the little cage inside them, you can do all your washing and cleaning in those. You don't need a wash and cure machine. And then you can cure it outside in the sun, or you can just get yourself a little UV flashlight and cure with that. You just stick it in a glass jar or something and fill it with water, and then you can just leave the flashlight on it for 5 minutes or so. I had it just set up on my dining room table, my front table in my front room. It's not really a dining room. So yeah, just on a table. It's sat in here with me now. It's not being used. But yeah, it's about 2 feet tall, if that, 1.5 feet. And mine's a first generation Mars, so it's slightly bigger than the newer ones. Right. This is one of my favourite colours, Doomfire Magenta. It's ridiculous. And I'm hoping it's dark enough for what I need. It's a little pink. I hope you guys can still hear me. I've just headset's just made a funny noise. So what are you guys working on? Come on, share the love. Tell me what you're on. Yeah. Bloody Games Workshop paints are so messy. What are the scissors for? The scissors were used to cut up gauze, because I was trying to make some camouflage netting for this, and I decided to go for toilet roll instead. Oh, that's no good. A troll for Blood Bowl, that's cool. I've never got on with Blood Bowl. It's never really been something that's interested me. But the Blood Bowl community have always been, and I now can't remember if the word well bearers of the 12th or 13th Legion, that's really confusing me. So yeah, I've always been really impressed with their community, how passionate they are. Can someone just tell me in the chat if the World Eaters are the 12th or 13th Legion, please? I think it's the 12th, but I'm sure it's the 13th, and I don't. Oh, Brian, I feel your pain. Eidolon and Lucius, nice, nice. Dusk Raiders is pretty cool. Dusk Raiders is cool. Word bearers are dirty. Sorry, Scion. Word bearers are dirty. Ooh, Alpha Legion. Nice, nice. Alpha Legion will be a project I do when I get my hands on the new Mark III Marines. Not until then. Whew. Warm, very warm. Bodies are 12. Thank you very much, Scion. So that's... Oh, 12 on his chest, all chipped up, and then the teeth as well, just to get some red in there. Because you have to. It's the lure. This is the only complaint I have about these paints, is you do have to squeeze quite hard to get any paint out of them. It almost feels like they're a bottle inside a bottle. Nice, nice. Yeah, 1,000 Suns. Go for it, man. That'd be really cool. I did read your username as Trump Thump, and I was like, okay, that's great. But I'm sure you get that a lot. I get called Brando a lot as well, which is quite funny. Oh, gold trim is a giant pain in the backside in every army. All trim and cabling, especially if it's an army that's a colour that's awkward to paint, like bright colours which then need dark colours alternating over them, is just the worst. Oh, I got this name many years back, so I don't change it anymore. It's actually named after a character from a book, so I just dropped the first bit of the name and just stuck with Bando because that's what everyone started calling me. Nice. I will be painting the Sicarian at some point, Brian. I don't know when. I need to prime it. I like to get a box full of stuff ready to prime at the same time, so that I'm not just using all the paint in one go, or wasting any. I like to make sure I get loads of stuff ready at the same time, which is why I have a huge box of Thousand Suns that have all been done up to the red stage. And now I need to start doing all the interesting fiddly bits on them. And they'll be my project after this desk is cleared of stuff that I'm currently working on. Which includes getting some printed scorpions. I've got an esoterist and I'm gonna get some honking big scorpions to be his summoned brutes. Yeah, I'm happy with that. My first ever World Eater model. Not the first part of the World Eaters that I painted for this army. 2 seconds. If anyone's got a recommendation for a wireless headset, I'd love it as well. Yeah, so this was actually the first bit of World Eater stuff I painted. A salvaged leg from a Contemptor onto my Raven Guard's Cortex, or Contemptor Cortex, Cortez, whatever they're called. And this is actually one of the Rigor Mortis patterns, one of the ones from the old Betrayal at Calthor Prospero game. I can't remember which one it was. So I just hacked up the legs and rebuilt them. Took the plasma cannon from the Minotaur's special character, Dreadnought. Used the Green Stuff World rollers. The old assault on... or Battle from a Crag, that was it. I think that's where that teleport home is from. And then the fist is from a Venerable Dreadnought. One of the conversions I'm probably most proud of. Just because it's a bit over the top. And it was right as all this nice, new, easy Contemptors were coming out. Put that somewhere I'm not going to knock it over in 5 minutes. I've also been contemplating starting these guys again. Getting some legs to fit them. I think I'm going to have to print them. Ordering some biker handlebars for them. Yeah, I've been trimming away at the bits to try different legs to fit, and I just can't get it to fit right. So I think printing the legs is going to have to be the right way to go. I also forgot to put the bolters in this one. The other two have got their bolters in. And then they'll be stripped and repainted because they're obviously being beaten and left around. My mate and I have been doing Heresy as an escalation, starting with 500 points, building up in 250 point blocks. I think I'm up to about 1250 now. Escalation campaigns are one of the best things to do, especially if you're new to a game or a faction, especially if you give yourself enough time to paint up to those points. They used to do A Tale of Four Gamers in White Dwarf, where they'd have an escalation like that. But it was based on money. They were given an X amount of money. You could buy bits back then from Games Workshop. So they were given a budget of, I think, £20 a week to expand their army. And they were great, but they always had to make sure it had to be... They couldn't have anything left over, so they couldn't save bits to use in future conversions. And it had to be painted by the end of the month. And you had just some really great modelling and painting, and just they were really, really good articles. In fact, I'm going to see if I can... Let me see if I can. There is a picture I've got. This actually inspired me back in the day more than anything else. It was a... Oh, what are they called? Iron Warriors. It's what got me into doing Iron Warriors. Here it is. Can't remember the guy's name. But this was his army. And I loved it. Now, this is quite a while ago, so obviously this isn't an army you could use in 9th or 10th edition. But everything about this was just like, he built this up week by week. And then they did a big White Dwarf battle report with it. Oh, this was fantastic. I loved this. This was so cool to me. And I've actually even thought about building this exact army in 30k. Yeah, back in the day. Take a guess where I get my nickname from. Okay, Havoc. Your nickname is from the early 2000s physics engine used by Valve in the critical masterpiece Half-Life 2. Yeah, that shut you up, didn't it? Let's see if we can get this guy worked on now. Yeah, the old Boxnauts were great. All the Boxnauts. There's only one Boxnaut that I don't particularly like, and that was the Metal Venerable Dreadnought, because it was just a bit ridiculous. It was... I'm not even joking, it was about 2.5 pounds of white metal. And it was that era when Games Workshop sculpting was at its worst. But I still want one. And only one of my websites currently has it, and it's the one which does the worst quality, which is really disappointing. Oh, I've got cables everywhere and it's driving me potty. I need a wireless headset. I mean, the really old Chaos Dreadnought with the weird fist, I didn't like that one particularly. Like the big claw. Yes, there was. He used one of the... what's it called? Servo claws, or whatever they're called. To have the guy holding the shell, which was quite cool. I actually spoke to the guy on Twitter ages ago, which was quite cool. He's still got the army. and I think he told me which White Dwarf, so it was like 270 something, I think. I also spoke to the guy who wrote Laurels of Defiance and asked him about Lucretius Corvo, who that book's about, and he confirmed that, in his mind, he's still out there kicking ass. He's got no plans to write any more, but he'd like to write some more about it, which I think is great. Yeah, basing is a really important skill. Basing takes a model that's a solid, 5 out of 10 and can put it up to an 8 easily. The best thing to do for basing is simply go outside. I know it sounds really silly, but go and look outside. Go and look at how the ground looks. Go and look at how plants grow, how they grow around trees, that sort of thing. Look at actually how trees weather. Look at how metal rusts, how brick decays, that sort of thing. Whenever I'm in a town with my parents or whatever, if we're walking around somewhere because we like to go exploring, I go out with them and we look around. I look at look at this interesting skip and have a look at the rust patterns on it. But start with the old Martian ironer, that sort of stuff, and progress from there. Once you've got that down and you're happy with those, add to it a bit to them. So, don't just do one layer, do a couple of layers, add some sand to it. Usually put the sand down first. Try adding some cork, add some grass, some, tufts and flowers, that sort of thing. But just practice and have a look. What I really want to try and do is that kind of very green forest, where a lot of the trees are dead and they've got all the moss on them and everything's gone that really bright yellowy green. I would love to do an army set in a situation like that. I don't know what army. I don't know who would fit in that situation. Sign, you're absolutely spot on. The Mark IV box dreadnought from Forge World is one of the best models they've ever done. The Mark V Venerable Dreadnought, might be even the other way around, is also fantastic, but I prefer the one with less detailing on it, for the reason it's got less detailing. I like my models a bit plain to let me do some stuff. A lot of the recasters have got the more interesting Veteran Dreadnought, but they don't have the box Dreadnought. They've also got the ironclad one, which I've used for my Night Lords. Yeah, cork's great for bases. This is all cork here. It's just good at doing, flat stone. Yes, bits of sprue are good for rubble. Dark Angels on Forest would be good. The only thing is that the Dark Angels army I'm planning is Siege of Terror, and they're going to be the ones defending the Astronomicon. So I don't know how I could get that to fit. But I do want to put some of those Saturnine Terminators in there because they look great. Yeah, do some Saturnine Terminators, a couple of units of Despoilers or something, and then the Librarian, Visago leading them. Maybe a box Dreadnought. I should pick up another Leviathan. I haven't got a Leviathan for... Well, I've only got 2 Leviathans. I've got one for my Thousand Suns and one for my White Scars. So I should get one for someone else, but I'm not sure which army should get one. Plus I don't want to buy any new kits for the moment. This is the problem. I want to do multiple armies in multiple settings with multiple backgrounds and all that sort of thing. And I'd love to do an Ultramarines force set in, you know, the Underworld War, and I want to do a second Imperial Fist army, but they're, you know, proto Black Templars, and I want to do another Blood Angels army, which is the Terminators attacking the Vengeful Spirit, alongside Sanguinius and Alpha Legion. I want to do a purple Alpha Legion army, but I also want to do the blue Alpha Legion army. I do want to know. I want to do another Thousand Suns army as well, which is really annoying. I was planning on doing a Thousand Suns White Scars joint army, doing the White Scars Sagar Maison, or whatever they're called, Sagar Maison. Have I used the Liber Panoptica? No, I haven't. I'm not the biggest fan of those guys. I can respect what they're doing. I do find their website and everything about it a little bit confusing. But yeah, I just don't get on with those guys very much. But you know, I do appreciate what they do for the community. I have used the Liber Badab stuff though. Thanks, Best. Best at Star Trek. That's a bold statement to make. What is the best Star Trek then? See, this is a trap. I am sorry if everything's out of focus. It's incredibly difficult to make sure that everything is in the right place and in focus and all that stuff. Star Trek Bridge Crew VR. Oh, I've not played that one. I've got Bridge Commander, which is one of my favourite games of all time. It is also hands down one of the buggiest and least stable games I've ever played. And my incredible psychopathic tendency is to sit in a Borg cube in first-person mode, being attacked by a fleet of 200 starships, and slowly cutting bits off them. I like to see how much of the ship I can cut to pieces before it explodes, because I should really seek psychiatric help. But it's like pulling the wings off flies when I'm slicing the engines off an Excelsior class. So you came to my quadrant, guys, you know, this is your fault. I'd like to give that a go. I don't have a VR headset or anything. It is part of the plan eventually to get one. And that game is definitely on the old wish list. That and Half-Life Alyx. Those are the two big ones I really want to get. So what do we think? Should the claws on the servo arm be hazard stripes? I'm kind of feeling hazard stripes because they would fit along with the dreadnought I've done. Thump, go for it. I mean, the Planet of the Sorcerers could be anything, couldn't it? You could make any sort of terrain. I, for one, I make my own temple bases using cut up like credit card sort of things, loyalty cards, which you don't generally get as many of anymore, which is a disappointment. Or I buy resin ones off eBay, which I think I talked about in one of my last live streams. I'm pretty sure I did. So, I heard an interesting rumour about that Imperial Fist Praetor, the Tartarus Terminator one, and that the reason he was so large is because he was made to be in scale with the Leviathan Terminators. Which is fine, except Leviathan Terminators are a 40k kit, which has me thinking that there is a plan to upscale these Terminators as well, which with the armour mark upgrades would make sense. But as someone who has probably close to 50 Cataphractian Tartarus Terminators across 12 armies, does fill me with dread of it. Let's get some brown down. Brune. Ow. This is Adriatic Skin from TT Combat. The leather on my headset has worn off, so it's just foam, so it's super slidey now, and I keep having to readjust it because it keeps sliding off my head. Oh, that's way too thick. Oh, two thin coats, not a bloody cagoule and a greatcoat there, buddy. Yeah, I don't think they need a refresh either. Let 40k keep slipping towards being a 54mm game. But, yeah. Honestly, at the scale they want to do it at, Heresy is better served by being like a 20mm or 15mm game, in my opinion. It's way too thick. Mark III armour update. I expect they'll redo all the current armours before they touch the new ones. Yeah, I think the reason they're doing Mark III is so that they can get a breacher resin kit out, if I'm going to be brutally honest. because the amount of people asking for breaches, it makes sense to just go, here's, you know, we've got plans to redo this kit in plastic, the Mark III in plastic. We'll do them first because then we can do a resin breacher upgrade set to go along with it in the meantime. And then when Mark IV comes out, they can do the destroyers, because destroyers generally wear Mark IV. Yes, I saw Wilf's Indomitus and they look fantastic. They were at the Siege. It was in relatively widespread use everywhere during the Siege. So, yeah, the Thousand Sons should have had access to it. Also, you have to remember that Mark VII and Indomitus armour were both in development during the Great Crusade. Both projects being spearheaded by Ferrus Manus. His Gorgon Terminators were Indomitus prototypes that he was trying to work the kinks out of. Unfortunately, they irradiated everyone, so not so great. But yeah, definitely. Mark VII was actually the Mark VI? I think it was the originally intended Mark VI model. Yeah, I'd rather see Mark III get proportional adjustments. Literally the same kit, just make it bigger, please. That's all I need. Yeah, I don't need changes in stylings. I don't need anything else. That's it. Sorry if I keep braining you with the sound. It's this stupid headset. When you don't have the colour you need, you make it. Bando got a sneak peek release. Yeah, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I do have friends who work at Games Workshop and they do tell me things. It's mostly really boring stuff about people in the office being complete wankers, because Games Workshop does have some semblance of product security. And no one interesting wants to talk to me. It's mostly just bean counters. You'd be more interested to hear the stuff I hear about that's in the pharmaceutical industry from people I went to school with. That stuff would blow your absolute mind. You sent me a peen pic. Yay! It's rather small. It also kind of looks like a fell blade, but smaller. I'd be more interested in more dynamic Terminator sculpts than larger ones. Like, they're just a bit boring, in my opinion. It's the purple skin. Mark VI Corvus would have been Mark V with the Harry's pack. Yeah, exactly. Well, rumour has it we'll be getting a new Mark VII kit, which will just be Mark VII on its own, which is interesting, and actually I'm okay with it, because the idea of just having every single armour mark as its own box set is pretty cool, because then you can build the force you want from the kits you want. You know, you buy one of each 20-man tactical squad. That's what, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4, Mark 5, Mark 6, Mark 7. That's a lot of Marines. that's a lot of Marines if they're 20-man boxes. Yes, I failed GCSE maths 3 times. Please don't sue me. I won't be able to work out how much I owe you. I'm not a fan of Tortuga. I'll be honest. I can respect what they're doing. I'm not a big fan of some of their sculpts. The price is getting close to Games Workshop now, but the big price killer for me is the shipping, which is absolutely mad. It was the same with it was Blood and Skulls Industries. Blood and Skulls made some absolutely fantastic upgrade kits for tanks that I desperately wanted to get my hands on. But the shipping from America was just insane. Oh, one brush. Yeah, shipping costs are prohibitive and definitely do affect my purchasing habits. Although that being said, I've been told I should get a PO box apparently, because weirdos want to send me things, which is terrifying and also stupid. You should not want to send me things at all. So the 40k Tactical Squad isn't Mark 7. The 40k Tactical Squad is a mix of Mark 7, Mark 6, and I believe there's even Mark 4 legs in there. So they are technically Mark 5, because they are wearing a hodgepodge of all sorts. Although some people would say the mix between 7 and 6 still counts as 7, because they were designed to be interchangeable. You can send me an Arvus lighter if you want, as long as it's not the AI scale one. If you do that, I will literally fire it out of a catapult. Which will involve me having to buy a catapult, or at least build a catapult. And don't threaten me with a good time. I just moved to Germany from the US. Shipping is a nightmare. I mean, you're living in Germany. That's not the only nightmare you've got. You've got Germans, the German government. I mean, you do have the Doner Kebab place at Alexandersplatz in Berlin, which is... And the York Schloss in Berlin as well. And Wiener Schnitzel. And, hello, Sven. Yeah, I'm coming to Berlin next weekend. Alright, bye. I miss Berlin. Berlin's a nice city. They have a restaurant there that does nothing but potatoes. Yes, there's a Mark 8 chess piece in there as well. Tartarus armour is pretty cool. Proxy wise, there's plenty of kits out there for them. Absolutely loads of them. Oh, pardon me. I'm on the old energy drinks, you know, keeping up my healthy lifestyle. Despite what my doctor tells me. What does she know? I got poked and prodded by a doctor the other day. She literally was just jabbing me in the ribs with her fingers. Does this hurt? Yeah! Oh, what does it feel like? Like some bitch is sticking her bony fingers in my ribs. But the good news is it doesn't look like I've got kidney stones, so that's a plus. That's good. Always finding kits that you thought you'd lost is always great. I bought a pack of 20 Mark 6 Marines because I couldn't get the Age of Darkness box when it first came out. I just couldn't get my hands on it, couldn't find it in stock anywhere. And it came out just at the wrong point between paydays. And yeah, so I bought some just to actually build some Mark 6 Marines, have something to do. And now I've got hundreds of the little beaky bastards. Oh, you can find them. The mega upload is still out there, mate. If you know where to look, if you're in the right Discords, you can still find every single file Games Workshop thinks they've got rid of off the internet. Because, to quote one of my favourite movies of all time, you can't stop the signal. I made these Nostroman tarot cards from some 1mm plastic card just cut to shape, and then a rivet from Zinj Industries. Zinj Industries is a fantastic little English company that make resin doodads and gizmos and bits, and their rivets are some of my favourite bits of kit. You can see them on the shoulder pad here as well. If you've got the inclination to go ahead and rivet up an entire Mark 7 Marine, you can turn them into Mark 5 really easily. So Tartarus Terminator armor wasn't a thing in the pre-heresy kind of era. It didn't show up in any of the artwork. It wasn't really a thing. Yeah, the old pre-heresy art was quite limiting on what it showed. I mean, it showed Space Marines in weird and wonderful different patterns of power armor. You know, the only ones that are really distinct were things like Mark 5, Mark 6, Mark 2. Then there was loads of stuff that was kind of Mark 2, Mark 3-ish. The Terminators all kind of looked like Cataphracti, except... There, let me go find it, 'cause it's one of my favourite pieces of heresy art. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm so bad at this. Where are you? Yeah, so that's what the models that people were making looked like. And that was the kind of artwork we had. All the Terminators looked like that. Which, don't get me wrong, that's cool as shit. More Terminators need giant top knots. There was also those guys. They're really cool. I should really sort the folders out by chapter or legion or something. It's just hundreds of pictures of just gumph. Nah. There it is. Gorgon Terminators. Actually, I think they might be marked down as Morlocks. But how cool is that? That just looks so cool. And look, would you look at that? He's got a Crux Terminatus on his shoulder. Ooh. And the old style Iron Hands logo, which is more like the Brazen Claws one. So yeah, Tartarus wasn't really a thing until they came out with the Badab War resin ones. And then, obviously, they shifted over and released the plastic ones in the Burning for Prospero. Or Burning of Prospero, sorry. But yeah, I like Tartarus Terminators. I want to do a World Eaters one. Do a couple of World Eaters in them. I'll add them to some other armies, but I'm not sure which ones I want to do it to yet. Maybe another 5 of them into my Sons of Horus, because I do have some in there already. Oh, how has it been 2 hours already? That's insane. My plans so far are fast attack Iron Hands, which is going to be needing a second squad of Assault Marines and a speeder. And they're allied, or not allied, they're an Iron Brotherhood of Iron, or whatever you call it, army, so that's going to have a Domitar and... oh, what's he called? Is it a Thanatar, the really big one? Yeah, I mean, Cruxes show up across loads of artwork. They're just the shape of the, they're just the elite symbol. The Crux Terminatus is just a specific award. It's like, this is, the medal we gave you for fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan sort of thing. That's all the Crux Terminatus is at the time it's created. You were one of the mad lads that went with the Emperor, Rogel, Dawn and Sanguinius and attacked Horus on the flagship. And you survived. Congratulations. And then after 10,000 years it's become something more. There's going to be a lot of awards given out during the Great Crusade. It was a time of, lots of military action, lots of heroes, lots of heroic actions. You tell me no one in the Randan genocides or xenocides ever won a medal? Doubt it. That was one thing I liked about the old 3rd edition Guard Codex. You could actually give your officers medals for to give them specific upgrades. And if I remember correctly, one of them was if the model dies the first time, it just doesn't happen. Can't get this to focus and it's annoying me. So what characters do you guys want to see re-released? Because Games Workshop's clearly in a mood to start re-releasing models. I think for me, I'd quite like to see Sanitar redone. Sigismund would be a really big one. I think those are the 2 big ones I'd like to see redone. How's that looking? blown away by how many of you guys are watching, by the way. This is my third stream. I've seen people who've gone on and done dozens of streams before they've even had 5 viewers, and consistently there's like a dozen of you who come on and watch this, and that really does blow me away, because I didn't realise there were that many mentally handicapped people out in the world, and I'm glad you found a safe space. Oh, that was very close to me slapping him in the face with a paintbrush then. Veteran with Crusade Honours. I do remember that one. What colour would I shade yellow armour with? So I generally don't paint in the kind of heavy metal way, so I don't do shading in that way. So the colour I use to shade my yellow is burnt umber, and lots of it. I've got an Imperial Fist nearby. That's handy. So I usually do my yellow with Baylor Brown as a base coat, and then I do a Zenithal highlight from just above at 45 degrees like that, using Avalan Sunset. Once that's dried, God, this is so dusty. Once that's dried, I then sponge on Avalan Sunset around the edges. And then I do brown, which is Rakarth Flesh, I believe it's called. And then I do an oil wash, and that dulls everything down and blends it all together. If I was to be painting more traditionally heavy metal style, oranges, but kind of something a little bit like this colour, with a bit more red in it. And I'd be doing very, very thin glazes. Very thin glazes. That's bugging me about that Veteran with Crusade Owners. I want to know what it is. I think I do know it. Oh right, yes, yeah, the Praetor that looks like he should be on EastEnders. Yeah, no, he's a great model. But yeah, his face is awful nowadays. If you find a copy of that, it has not held up well casting wise. Yeah, a CAD version of that exact model, so just slightly nicer sculpting, I'd buy that. In fact, that model, let's get that. Sorry, let me just get that up so you guys can see it. Giggity. Again, I should have paid attention to what I was saving it as, because I've just saved it into a folder full of pictures. Oh, you wouldn't think I worked in IT. Somebody can't find it. There it is. Yeah, so this model. If you redid this exact model as is, in a modern sculpt in plastic, and threw that into a box set, 100%, absolutely brilliant. I reckon that would be one of the most popular models you could actually buy out there. replace the bolt pistol arm with like an arm holding a boarding shield. You wouldn't keep that model in stock, probably. Yeah. He's great. I mean, you've got loads of detailing, an interesting face, interesting power fist, great looking armour. That's a great model. It's just a pity you can't get it. Love the Masters of Chapters, James. They are some of my favourite models. I have used all of them now in my armies. What have we got? I've used 2 of them for my Empress Children, 1 of them for my Sons of Horus, 1 of them in my Raven Guard. And I've used the arm off 1 of them on my Sons of Horus tank. The guy in the Commander Capella is holding his helmet. Yes, it is. Yeah, he would make a really nice banner bearer. What is it with giving banner bearers power fists as well? Like, I really don't get it, but I'm okay with it. This is Admiralty Grey by TT Combat. Not used this one yet, but it looks like it's quite a nice light blue grey, which should nicely brighten and desaturate this. This brush is awful. Yeah, it's always good when you can get a good deal on eBay. I generally don't see them anymore. eBay's become a place where you're paying almost retail now for these models. And yeah, gone are the days of picking up an actual good deal on eBay. Yeah, Master of Rites and Master of Marches were good. I painted one of those for a friend a long time ago. That was actually the first fine cast model I ever painted, and I hated it. But I stole his backpack and used it for my Delegatus as well. Because it's got the nice big speakers on the back, which are pretty cool. And when your Delegatus has turned up with the idea of telling everyone, hey, join the Emperor or die, you'd want to make sure that everyone hears you. So the rumour has it that there is a sculpt that someone from the studio has seen for a new Praetor. Whether or not that's a legitimate thing, or if it's just someone making up shit for clout, we don't know yet. But that means we've only got another 6 days or so to wait. I most definitely will not be waiting up to watch it, because I've got to go to work, and we're a man down that week. Yeah, all the good deals on eBay, they either disappear instantly or they're recasts. Hell, even the recast stuff generally ends up on auction and ends up going up to almost retail. I found a guy that was selling like recast Forge World upgrade kits, and a pack of 5 heads was going up to, you know, the same price as you were paying for them on Forge World. Now obviously they're out of production, but still, that's ridiculous. How's that looking there? Wow, this camera really washes out all of the colour, all of the subtle blending. That's really nice to know. Oh well. Shit happens. This evening is brought to you by Rubicon Raw, Apple and Guava, and my racing heart rate of 192 beats a minute. Let's paint some yellow. Here you go. The guy was asking about yellow paint. I'm going to teach you a little secret we used to use back in the day for painting yellow. So start with a nice bright skin tone. Yeah, back on the old bolter and chain sword, every week there was someone asking how to paint yellow. And I never, ever contemplated the idea of doing an Imperial Fist army. The idea of me painting Imperial Fists was wild. I hated pretty much all of the standard GW schemes. The idea of painting something that was like a Codex chapter. Blech. And now I'm sat on 4,000 points of Imperial Fists. It still doesn't occur to me that I'm an Imperial Fist player, like, at all. That's not how I see myself in any way, shape or form. In fact, I identify more as a White Scar player before I identify anything else. I hate that word as well. So the goal here is to try and get a really smooth finish, because the biggest problem with painting yellow is it will show up any surface imperfection. Leave that to dry for a bit. Let's find something else to paint for a while. Didn't show this off last time. Here was my old standard bearer for a militia army. I'll get around to finishing them at some point. Whew. I can't think of what else to paint. Oh, that's no good. Now we'll just stick with this guy, we'll just keep doing other stuff on him. So did anyone watch the new Star Wars TV show Ahsoka yet? There's even though I haven't got Disney Plus, I watched it the other night, and it was definitely a mixed bag. And this is Ironbreaker from Games Workshop. Just letting you know. I miss the old chainmail, bolt gun metal, and mithril silver. They were great. And chestnut ink, but not as much as I miss flesh wash. I enjoy the Bad Batch, actually. I quite like that. Even if Omega is a little whiny. They're a mixed bag, Havoc. Some of them are really good. Some of them are a bit pants. Most of them have got some good moments in them. Like the whole first season of The Mandalorian's great. But season 2 and 3 are all over the place. The Book of Boba Fett's all over the place, apart from the 2 or 3 episodes that basically were recut from The Mandalorian. Andor is really good, but it's very different to anything else, and it's a bit of a slow burn. The Bad Batch is great if you like their animated stuff. Which I do. I quite like the Clone Wars and Rebels. I loved the old expanded universe. The old expanded universe is what got me through school. Incoming sob story. So I was bullied quite a lot at school. And just to preface it, I did my own share of bullying in return because that's what happens. Side note, if you ever read about the F1 driver, James Hunt, his son is very similar and has a really nasty right hook. But yeah, so I used to get bullied a lot at school, and I ended up reading the Star Wars X-Wing series as my way of kind of getting away from everything. I'd sneak downstairs, because it was boarding school, I'd sneak downstairs in the middle of the night and I'd sit in the library reading Michael Stackpole's X-Wing series in the library. I may have even actually taken a couple of copies when I left the school. But yeah, I mean the old expanded universe needed someone to be in control of it, which it didn't have. So it was all over the place in terms of quality. So while you had things like the X-Wing series, which meticulously showed you how an empire doesn't disappear and die overnight after you kill off the Emperor, well, for every book like that you then have Luke falling out of a castle window and going into some sort of peyote-driven force vision where he has a conversation with a lizard squirrel. And nothing I've just said then is incorrect. That all happens in one book. He also gets married by a girl who ties him up with a rope. So you go, girl. Secure that bag. But I also find it really funny that Disney is like, oh, Star Wars fans are just nerds who hate women, and in the old expanded universe, literally the two most favourite characters, which were Mara Jade and Jaina Solo, are obviously women. It also blows my mind that Disney hasn't somehow managed to get Mara Jade into the new Star Wars universe yet. But being a redhead, I'm assuming they're going to Netflix her in some way, shape or form. Because they seem to do that a lot. But I was very excited for the new expanded universe. So they came out with all their books, all the new books, which was the Aftermath trilogy. So I went into my local bookshop and I pre-ordered it from my local bookshop to ensure that I could actually go and get it the day of release and not have to wait for it to be delivered. And I took it home in its big hardback white book and I devoured it. And I'm happy to say that it was not the worst Star Wars book I've read, it was the worst book I've ever read. It was terrible. It read like some 13-year-old Tumblr fan fiction. It was like, oh, my main character is a super genius and his mum was the best pilot ever and she was here when everyone was happening and I've got a robot that's literally just like a cross between Deadpool and fucking Darth Maul. And then I got blocked by Chuck Wendig when I asked him if being a shit writer was a requirement to write for Disney or if they trained you. That's why I don't particularly go on Twitter anymore. They basically shit-canned all of the old expanded universe, and then they realised that they can't write to save their lives, so they started picking and choosing bits from the expanded universe and bringing them back, like Grand Admiral Thrawn. Because just like Games Workshop, you can't undo bad will with the community. I like building models, and then I get stupid crap like having to deal with this staff being in the way. Oh man, it is hot. Yes, it absolutely would. You are spot on there, James. But yeah, if they seriously want to save their bacon with Star Wars, a soft reboot is pretty much the only option they've got available to them. I think they're still trying to dig their way out of the hole, and it's not working. So they kind of have to time jump, or they're going to have to create a new story and base it off that, and then just focus on those characters and the characters that are introduced around them. That is if they're smart. Which is probably not going to happen because it's Disney. I've got to build a Cerberus at some point as well for these guys. I don't know what I'm going to do with a super heavy for a bunch of Night Lords. There is an Heir to the Empire animated film on YouTube, a fan-made one that is fully CGI, and it's not great, but I think it uses the audiobook. Nothing's going to beat Hell's Reach for that sort of thing, though. I'm quite happy with that so far. Let's do another coat of this skin tone. Pro tip, always have 2 pots of water, one for washing out regular paint and one for doing metallics, so you don't get a lot of metallic flakes in your paint. Another pro tip on top of that is stop being so uptight that you care about metallic flakes in your paint and just have a pot of water and wash your brush out. Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't realise it was fully voice acted by their own people. I'll tell you what, that's something I would, if I was ever in a position of power like Star Wars or Star Trek or anything like that, you promote fan films because it's free advertising. You give them a stock, this is a fan film, like intro clip to play, and you know they make the agreement that they're not going to make any profit off of it, and then you know topics they can't have even referenced in there, you know, like hey, you can't talk about, you know, the old cheese pizza stuff or whatever, and then you just go, yeah, go for it, make your fan film, go nuts. And then I mean, Games Workshop at like Warhammer Fest could have a screening of what they've picked as the best fan film. Could you imagine if you had like, you know, 10,000 people sat in the NEC or whatever watching Astartes for the first time because it's been voted the best fan film? That'd be great. Catch you later, Rutger. I don't expect you guys to stick around, you know, it's late, and I'm rambling. I can't be that entertaining. But yeah, you just, especially Games Workshop, you know, you have these animations show up, and then you just, you know, whoever wins the this is the best fan film animation thing, you stick it up on Warhammer Plus. You know, you give them a prize, you give them a, I don't know, £1,000 Games Workshop voucher, which is nothing to GW, and you stick their stuff up on, you know, up on the old website, on Warhammer Plus, whatever you call it, and yeah, I know that's far too sensible. That's the one I want. Logic be damned. Yeah, they do want a monopoly because I mean that's what you want. But I mean, you look at Tortuga, for example, their new Crab Cullen model. There's no difference. It is just a Indomitus Terminator character. But Games Workshop can't stop them because they're not using any registered names, they're not using any registered iconography. It's just the shape, and they have been told, and they've lost court cases over it, that they can't copyright like the shape of armour. So congratulations. What did they do instead? Well, they went and redesigned all their stuff to be in worse shaped armour. Yeah, I mean, why is there no heresy stuff on Warhammer Plus? You know, that would be great. I would absolutely watch that. I mean, that's the sort of thing you get the guy who made Astartes to do. You've already got world-class talent at your disposal for voice acting. You literally go, okay, here's False Gods. Go and make an animation, split it into 12 parts, and do False Gods. And then do Horus Rising, or whatever it was, whatever the first one was. And then do the second one, and then do the third one. Because people will watch it, a full length thing. You know, people will watch, if it's good quality, it doesn't matter what it is, they'll watch it. I've spent a lot of time working on this guy, and he doesn't look any different than he did when I started. Oh, Gordon Bennett. Ah, well. Need to finish doing the lightning bolts at some point as well. I'll probably wait till the end for that. I do know I want this bit here to be glowing though, but that'll probably be done in... What I'll do is I'll use the airbrush to spray that white so it's like an OSL thing, and then I'm going to use the old Doomfire magenta on it. Doom Rider. I'm sure you'll find those proxies again, don't worry. They pop up. You know, they're all over the place. Like I said earlier, you can't stop the signal. Games Workshop can try and block and ban and get rid of everything they want, but at the end of the day, the only reason that Games Workshop can actually get rid of any 3D printed kits is because of the wording. If you are careful with what you name your product when you put it up, they cannot touch it. Colts 3D has regularly told Games Workshop to pound sand when they've given them lists of hundreds of kits to try and remove. And they've gone, no, you can't take it. It's not using any of your copyright names. It's not using any copyrighted symbols. Does not fall under copyright law. And Games Workshop then goes, okay, and they can't touch them. So, I mean, Games Workshop does the exact same thing that Disney does. Which is they use the fear of this behemoth legal entity appearing in front of you and going, stop doing what you're doing. And everyone goes, I can't afford to be sued by Disney or Games Workshop. So they do. They don't actually know their rights. They don't know what they're doing. All that sort of thing. I just found this guy. Thought I'd show him to you. I went to Salute earlier in the year, and they have the Evia Metal, which is a Facebook group for painting. They do a speed painting table. And this was the model I got given, was this tiny little space gnome guy, and I decided to try and paint him white in 20 minutes. And it was using Army Painter paints of all things. I could have spent 20 minutes alone just shaking the paint bottles to get them working. Can I get my airbrush out, you know? Right. Yes, Space Hobbit. I think I'm going to call it there. I won't do any more of this. I will wait until the next stream before I paint any more of this so we can keep going over the yellow on this. But it's getting too hot in here, guys. And my friends are now messaging me and asking me to play video games with them. And I never get to play with him because he's a dirty delivery driver with a weird schedule. So thanks for coming along and seeing me paint my first World Eater. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you're watching this later on, please feel free to put a comment in there. I really appreciate them. I try to stream at least once a week, and I always try to get at least one video up every 3 days at the latest. If there's anything you want to see me work on, any questions you have, throw them in the comments. Come find me on Discord. I'm on both the Outer Circles Discord. I'm on the Crusade and Heresies Discord. Feel free to drop me a PM anytime, or just tag me. Alright guys, thank you very much for coming along. I really appreciate it that you spent your Saturday evening with me. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're in the UK,